Love is not just an emotion, right? It's a choice that you make every single day.
In the quiet, tree-lined streets of Kensington, a peaceful town nestled within Montgomery County, Maryland, a chilling discovery shattered the calm in March of 2021. Lauren Charles, a vibrant 40-year-old woman with a life full of promise, was found brutally murdered within the sanctuary of her own home. The news of her death sent shockwaves through her community, leaving behind a void in the lives of those who knew and loved her. Lauren was not just a resident of this Maryland town. She was a cherished daughter and a loyal friend, her presence a comforting warmth in the lives of many. The initial moments following the discovery were shrouded in disbelief and a dawning horror. For those who knew Lauren, the idea that her life could be extinguished in such a violent manner was incomprehensible. She was remembered as someone who brought light and positivity into the world, making the circumstances of her passing all the more tragic and perplexing. The close-knit community struggled to reconcile the image of the gentle woman they knew with the brutal reality of her murder. As the news began to spread, a wave of grief washed over her family and close friends. The sudden and violent end to Lauren's life left them grappling with an unimaginable loss, a pain that words could scarcely capture. The warmth of her smile, the sound of her laughter, the comfort of her presence, all were abruptly silenced, leaving behind an echoing emptiness in their hearts. The tight bonds they shared with Lauren now served as a constant reminder of what had been so cruelly taken away. In the wake of this tragedy, the question of how such a thing could happen hung heavy in the air. Who could have committed such a heinous act against a woman so beloved? The mystery surrounding Lauren's murder began to unfold, drawing the attention of investigators determined to bring justice for the life that was so violently ended. Every clue, every piece of evidence, would be meticulously examined in an effort to unravel the truth behind this devastating crime. The motivation behind sharing Lauren's story was twofold: to honor her memory and to potentially help others who might be facing similar dangers or whose lives have been touched by violence. By bringing the details of this case to the public, there was hope that someone might come forward with crucial information, or that Lauren's experience could serve as a cautionary tale, highlighting the importance of awareness and vigilance. First responders pushed open the door to Lauren Charles's bedroom and immediately confronted a scene of intense violence. Overturned furniture blocked their path as scattered personal belongings lay strewn across the floor, testament to a fierce struggle that had unfolded within the room's confines. A heavy silence hung in the air, potentially thick with a faint, metallic scent that spoke of bloodshed. Their eyes darted across the space, taking in the utter disarray that had transformed a personal sanctuary into a landscape of chaos. Investigators followed closely behind, their training and protocols instantly engaging as they surveyed the grim reality. They meticulously documented the state of the room: an overturned bedside table, a shattered lamp, clothing ripped and torn. Each piece of dislodged furniture and every scattered item whispered a silent narrative of a violent confrontation. They noted the disruption of order, the violation of personal space, all pointing towards a desperate fight. Their focus soon shifted to the undeniable presence of blood, starkly visible against the room's surfaces. Crimson stains marred the back of the white bedroom door, a grim marker of the violence that had erupted. Droplets and streaks traced paths along the walls, perhaps mapping the movement and impact of the final, terrifying moments. The investigators recognized these patterns as potential clues, each mark holding a piece of the puzzle they needed to solve. On the carpet, their gaze settled upon the horrifying imprint of bloody handprints. These weren't random smears, they were distinct shapes, evidence of a desperate grasp, a final attempt to find purchase or escape. First responders exchanged grim glances, recognizing the profound struggle these prints represented. Investigators knelt, carefully photographing and documenting each print, understanding their significance in reconstructing the events. One of Lauren's closest friends, Chinedum Nwabesimcmilan, later recounted her agonizing thoughts upon hearing the details. Though not present at the discovery, she imagined the terror Lauren must have felt in those final moments. Her empathy amplified the horror of the scene, reminding everyone that this was not just a collection of evidence, but the aftermath of a profound human tragedy. Her words painted a vivid picture in the minds of those who had to process the brutal reality firsthand. Lead investigator Sherry Galladora directed the initial walkthrough, her trained eyes methodically scanning every detail. She pointed out the overturned furniture, the scattered items, and the pervasive presence of blood to her team. Her instructions were precise: document everything, touch nothing. She understood that even the smallest detail could hold the key to unlocking the mystery of Lauren's death. The investigators moved with a practiced efficiency, their movements a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding them. They carefully placed evidence markers, their numbered tags standing out against the crimson stains and the disarray of personal belongings. Each photograph they took, each measurement they recorded, was a step towards understanding the sequence of events that had led to this tragic discovery. The overwhelming sense within the room was one of profound sadness and a heavy weight of responsibility. First responders, accustomed to dealing with emergencies, recognized the finality of this scene. Investigators felt the pressure to uncover the truth, to give a voice to the victim who could no longer speak for herself. The brutality of the crime scene fueled their determination to find answers. The scene in Lauren's bedroom was more than just a crime scene. It was a tableau of violence, a stark and disturbing testament to a life violently ended. The disarray, the blood, the silent struggle evident in the handprints, all combined to create a powerful and visceral image of the tragedy. This initial confrontation with the reality of Lauren's murder set the tone for the entire investigation, underscoring the need for meticulous work and unwavering dedication to the pursuit of justice. In that moment, within the confines of the destroyed bedroom, the investigation into the mysterious murder of Lauren Charles truly began. The first responders and investigators understood the gravity of what they had witnessed, the sheer brutality of the act, and the long and arduous path that lay ahead in their quest to uncover the truth and bring the perpetrator to justice. The 911 call connected to Lauren Charles's murder pierced through the routine of the dispatch center, immediately signaling that something was terribly wrong. The person on the other end of the line initiated a sequence of events that would become a crucial cornerstone in the investigation. Their voice, whether frantic, unusually calm, or laced with an unsettling detachment, carried the first spoken narrative of the unfolding tragedy. This call was not a typical report of a crime. It possessed an element that law enforcement later characterized as bizarre.
A Silver Spring man is set to spend 55 years in prison, all for murdering his wife. This is Reginald Dunlap. He's 45 years old. A jury found him guilty back in March. Now, prosecutors say he killed his wife, Lauren Charles, back in 2021. Investigators found her body inside of this home right here, the couple's home. Now, I have to warn you right here, details of this killing are extremely disturbing. Investigators believe Dunlap forced a pillowcase down his wife's throat and beat her to death with a Buddha statue. They say he poured bleach on her body and ransacked their bedroom to make it look like a break-in. The father of Lauren Charles spoke after today's sentencing.
Lauren is living within us. She's still with us. She has an essence that will never disappear. The physical taking of her life was an incident that galvanized love and I guess a commitment to us sharing her light with others.
Yeah, making this all worse, prosecutors say Dunlap showed no remorse at his sentencing today.
Consider the possibility that the caller's identity itself was unexpected. Perhaps someone far removed from Lauren's immediate circle placed the call, raising questions about their knowledge and connection to the events. This unexpected source could have triggered immediate suspicion, prompting dispatchers to meticulously record every word and nuance. Investigators would later dissect the caller's background and motives, searching for any connection to Lauren or the crime scene. Another aspect that might have rendered the call bizarre was its timing. A significant delay between the actual murder and the 911 call could have aroused suspicion. Investigators would meticulously analyze the timeline, seeking to understand the reasons behind the delay. Was it an attempt to stage the scene, to fabricate an alibi, or did other, more sinister reasons account for the lapse in time? This temporal anomaly would undoubtedly have become a focal point of the investigation. The content of the call itself likely held unusual elements. Perhaps the caller provided inconsistent information, contradicted themselves, or omitted crucial details that a typical witness or reporter might have included. These inconsistencies, even subtle ones, can act as red flags for trained dispatchers and investigators, suggesting deception or a hidden motive. The specific details shared or withheld by the caller would have been scrutinized for any indication of their involvement or knowledge of the crime. The emotional tone of the caller could also have contributed to the call's bizarre nature. An individual reporting a brutal murder would typically exhibit signs of distress, fear, or shock. A caller who remained unusually calm, displayed inappropriate emotions, or even sounded rehearsed could have immediately raised red flags. This unexpected emotional response would have been carefully noted and analyzed by investigators as a potential indicator of guilt or involvement. Imagine the dispatch operator, their initial training guiding them to gather essential information, location, nature of the emergency, and details about the victim. But with this particular call, something deviated from the norm. Perhaps the caller's explanation for being at the scene was illogical, their description of events didn't quite align, or they provided information that seemed oddly specific or conversely, suspiciously vague. As the call progressed, investigators likely listened to recordings, dissecting every pause, every inflection, every word choice. They searched for inconsistencies, for moments where the caller might have slipped up or revealed more than they intended. The bizarre nature of the call likely provided an early, albeit potentially cryptic, roadmap for their investigation, pointing them in a specific direction or highlighting particular individuals for closer scrutiny. The impact of this bizarre 911 call cannot be overstated. It served as an initial thread in the complex tapestry of the murder investigation. It alerted law enforcement that this was not a straightforward case of accidental death or a crime with obvious perpetrators. The unusual elements of the call signaled a deeper layer of mystery that needed to be unraveled. Investigators likely compared the details of the 911 call with the physical evidence found at the crime scene. Any discrepancies or alignments would have been crucial in either corroborating the caller's account or further fueling suspicions. The bizarre nature of the call may have even provided an early hypothesis for the investigators, a potential angle to explore as they gathered more evidence and interviewed witnesses. The bizarre 911 call was a pivotal moment in the investigation of Lauren Charles's murder. Its unusual nature, whether stemming from the caller's identity, the timing, the content, or the emotional delivery, immediately set it apart from typical emergency reports. This deviation from the norm undoubtedly captured the attention of dispatchers and investigators alike, providing an initial, crucial, and potentially telling piece of the puzzle in the quest to uncover the truth behind Lauren's tragic death. Investigators turned their attention to a common electronic device, recognizing its potential to hold crucial information about the final moments of Lauren Charles's life and the identity of her killer. This device, an everyday object in the modern world, had unwittingly become a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy. Law enforcement secured the device, carefully taking it into their possession, knowing that its digital footprint could reveal vital clues. Forensic technicians meticulously examined the device, seeking to extract any data that might shed light on the events. They navigated through its memory, looking for timestamps, communication logs, location data, and any other digital breadcrumbs left behind. Their skilled hands worked with precision, understanding that a single deleted message or a seemingly insignificant piece of data could prove to be the key to cracking the case. Consider the possibility that the device was Lauren's smartphone. Investigators might have actively reviewed her call history, noting the last people she spoke with and the duration of those conversations. They would have delved into her text messages, searching for any exchanges that might indicate conflict, threats, or unusual arrangements. Furthermore, they likely examined her location data, hoping to reconstruct her movements in the hours leading up to her death and identify anyone who might have been with her. If the device was a computer or laptop, investigators would have diligently scrutinized her emails, looking for any correspondence that might point towards a motive or a potential suspect. They would have examined her browse history, tracing her online activity to see if she had been researching anything related to her safety or had been in contact with individuals of interest. Documents and files stored on the device could also have provided valuable insights into her personal and professional life. Another possibility is that the common electronic device referred to a smart home system. Investigators might have actively accessed the logs from security cameras, smart locks, or voice assistants. Security footage could have captured the arrival or departure of individuals from Lauren's home, while smart lock data could have recorded when doors were locked and unlocked. Voice assistant logs might have even contained inadvertent recordings of conversations or commands that occurred around the time of the murder. Alternatively, the device could have been a wearable, such as a smartwatch or a fitness tracker. These devices often record a wealth of data, including the wearer's location, activity levels, and even physiological information like heart rate. Investigators might have actively analyzed this data to determine Lauren's movements and condition in the hours leading up to her death, potentially identifying periods of unusual activity or distress. With each piece of extracted data, investigators would have actively worked to correlate it with other evidence gathered from the crime scene and witness testimonies. They would have looked for inconsistencies, contradictions, or patterns that might point towards a suspect. The digital information served as a powerful tool, capable of corroborating or refuting existing theories and leading them down new avenues of inquiry. The common nature of the device was precisely what made it so valuable. People often overlook the vast amount of information they unknowingly generate and store on their everyday electronic gadgets. Investigators actively exploited this reality, recognizing that even seemingly mundane data could hold the key to unlocking the truth behind a complex crime. Through their meticulous analysis of the electronic device, investigators actively pieced together fragments of Lauren's final hours. They likely uncovered crucial communication, location data, or activity patterns that directly implicated the person responsible for her murder. This digital evidence, in conjunction with the physical findings from the crime scene and the details gleaned from the bizarre 911 call, began to form a cohesive narrative. Ultimately, the common electronic device became an indispensable tool in the investigation. Investigators actively used the information it contained to cut through the uncertainty and confusion surrounding Lauren Charles's death. This digital clue played a significant role in helping them to zero in on the individual they believed was responsible for the brutal crime, bringing them one crucial step closer to delivering justice for Lauren and her loved ones. Having gathered the initial, unsettling picture from Lauren's bedroom and armed with the potentially misleading details of the bizarre 911 call along with the wealth of digital information from the electronic device, investigators actively began the crucial process of connecting these disparate pieces of the puzzle. They understood that the key to solving the mystery lay in finding the common threads that linked these elements together and pointed towards a specific individual. The information, when viewed in isolation, offered fragmented perspectives, but when carefully analyzed and cross-referenced, the truth began to emerge. Investigators meticulously compared the timeline suggested by the electronic device data with the account provided by the 911 caller. Any significant discrepancies immediately raised red flags. For instance, if the caller claimed to have discovered the body at a certain time, but Lauren's device recorded activity or communication that contradicted this timeline, suspicion would naturally fall upon the caller. This active comparison of information was a fundamental step in discerning truth from deception. Location data from Lauren's electronic device played a pivotal role in this stage. Investigators actively mapped her movements in the hours and days leading up to her death. If the device placed a particular individual, someone perhaps not initially on their radar, in close proximity to Lauren's home around the estimated time of the murder, this would have served as a significant lead. Even if this individual had denied being in the area, the objective location data from the device would tell a different story, compelling investigators to take a closer look. Communication logs from Lauren's phone or computer offered another critical avenue of investigation. Detectives actively scrutinized her recent calls, text messages, and emails, searching for any patterns of conflict, escalating tensions, or unusual interactions with a specific person. A series of heated exchanges or a sudden cessation of contact with someone known to Lauren could have indicated a troubled relationship and positioned that individual as a person of interest. Furthermore, investigators actively analyzed Lauren's overall activity on her electronic device. Changes in her routine, unusual searches, or interactions on social media could have provided insights into her state of mind and any potential threats she might have been facing. This comprehensive analysis aimed to build a holistic picture of Lauren's life in the days leading up to her death, helping to identify anyone who might have had a motive or opportunity to harm her. The bizarre elements of the 911 call now took on a new significance when viewed in the context of the electronic device data. Perhaps the caller's unusual calmness or detachment seemed particularly suspicious when juxtaposed with frantic messages found on Lauren's phone. Or perhaps the caller's vague description of events sharply contrasted with the detailed timeline and activity recorded by her device. Investigators actively sought these incongruities, recognizing them as potential indicators of the caller's involvement or knowledge of the crime. Witness testimonies, if available at this stage, would have also been actively compared with the digital evidence. If neighbors reported seeing a particular individual near Lauren's home around the time of the murder, and this aligned with the location data from her device or communication logs, it would have strengthened the case against that person. Conversely, inconsistencies between witness statements and the objective data would have required further investigation and could have either cleared a potential suspect or raised further suspicion. Through this meticulous process of cross-referencing and analyzing the various pieces of information, investigators actively began to see a clearer picture emerge. The clues from the bizarre 911 call and the electronic device, initially separate and somewhat enigmatic, started to converge, pointing towards a specific individual. This individual might have been someone known to Lauren, or perhaps someone who had remained hidden in the periphery. The moment these clues began to coalesce around a particular person marked a significant turning point in the investigation. Investigators actively shifted their focus, directing their resources and efforts towards gathering more information about this individual, their background, their relationship with Lauren, their whereabouts at the time of the murder, and any potential motive they might have had. This targeted approach allowed them to move from a broader inquiry to a more focused pursuit of a primary suspect. Following the investigators' relentless work, the evidence pointed squarely at Reggie, Lauren's husband, as the perpetrator of the brutal crime. Law enforcement actively moved to arrest Reggie and brought him before the court to face charges for the murder of his wife. His initial court appearance marked the beginning of a tense legal battle that would captivate the community and force a confrontation with the tragedy that had unfolded behind closed doors. In the solemn courtroom, the prosecution actively presented the indictment against Reggie, formally accusing him of taking his wife's life in a violent act within their own home. As the legal process unfolded, pretrial hearings became the arena for intense debate and strategic maneuvering. Lawyers for both sides actively presented their arguments concerning the evidence that would be presented during the trial. The prosecution likely highlighted the data extracted from Lauren's electronic device, perhaps revealing communications or location information that contradicted Reggie's potential alibi or pointed towards his involvement. The defense, on the other hand, actively sought to challenge the admissibility and interpretation of this evidence, aiming to create reasonable doubt in the minds of the potential jury. The trial commenced with opening statements that laid out the competing narratives of the case. The prosecution actively presented their theory, asserting that Reggie had murdered his wife, possibly outlining a potential motive based on the evidence they had gathered. They promised to present a compelling case, weaving together forensic findings, witness testimonies, and the digital footprint left in the wake of Lauren's death. The defense actively countered this narrative, likely arguing for Reggie's innocence, suggesting other possibilities, or attacking the credibility of the prosecution's witnesses and evidence. Witnesses took the stand to recount their knowledge and observations related to Lauren and Reggie's relationship and the events surrounding the murder. Investigators actively detailed the scene they encountered in the bedroom, emphasizing the signs of violence and the subsequent collection of crucial evidence. Forensic experts actively presented their analysis of the blood spatter patterns, DNA evidence, and any other physical clues found at the crime scene, meticulously linking them to Reggie. The data from Lauren's electronic device, presented by forensic technicians, likely painted a damning picture of Reggie's actions or whereabouts. The details of the bizarre 911 call, possibly placed by Reggie himself or someone connected to him, also came under scrutiny during the trial. Dispatchers actively recounted the call, highlighting any unusual aspects of the caller's tone or the information provided. Investigators actively explained how the call contributed to their initial suspicions and ultimately helped them focus on Reggie as a potential suspect. This testimony aimed to provide the jury with a comprehensive understanding of the sequence of events and the evidence that led to Reggie's arrest. Throughout the proceedings, Lauren's family and friends maintained a constant presence in the courtroom, their grief a tangible force. They actively observed every twist and turn of the trial, their hope for justice for Lauren fueling their unwavering attendance. The emotional toll of reliving the tragic events was evident on their faces, but their determination to see Reggie held accountable for his actions remained steadfast. As the trial drew to a close, both the prosecution and the defense actively delivered their final arguments, each side presenting their interpretation of the evidence and urging the jury to reach a verdict in their favor. The prosecution passionately argued that the evidence overwhelmingly pointed to Reggie's guilt, while the defense made a final plea for the jury to consider all the possibilities and find reasonable doubt in the case against their client. The decision now lay with the jury. The jury retired to deliberate, engaging in intense discussions behind closed doors as they carefully weighed the evidence and the testimonies presented throughout the trial. The waiting period was agonizing for everyone involved, particularly for Lauren's family, who yearned for a resolution and a sense of closure. The anticipation was palpable as the days turned into hours, and the fate of Reggie hung in the balance. The jury reached a verdict. The courtroom fell silent as the jury members returned, their expressions unreadable. The foreperson announced the verdict, declaring Reggie guilty of the murder of his wife, Lauren Charles. A wave of emotion washed over the courtroom, relief and sorrow for Lauren's family, and the stark reality of his conviction for Reggie. Following the guilty verdict, the court moved to the sentencing phase. The prosecution actively argued for a severe punishment, emphasizing the brutality of the crime and the profound loss suffered by Lauren's loved ones. The defense might have presented mitigating factors in an attempt to sway the judge towards a lesser sentence. Ultimately, the judge delivered the sentence, holding Reggie accountable for the murder of his wife, a final chapter in the legal proceedings that brought a measure of justice for Lauren. Following Reggie's conviction, Lauren's family actively grappled with the complex emotions that washed over them. A sense of relief permeated their initial reactions, a feeling that justice had finally been served for their beloved Lauren. The arduous legal process had culminated in a verdict that held Reggie accountable for his horrific actions, offering a semblance of closure to a long and painful chapter. However, this legal victory did not erase the profound sorrow and the gaping void left by Lauren's absence. Even with the court's pronouncement of guilt, Lauren's family actively continued to navigate the landscape of their grief. The memories of Lauren, once a source of joy and comfort, now intertwined with the stark reality of her tragic end. They actively sought ways to cope with their loss, leaning on each other for strength and finding solace in shared memories of Lauren's vibrant personality and the love she brought into their lives. The pain of knowing the person closest to her had betrayed and ultimately taken her life added another layer of complexity to their healing process. In their efforts to honor Lauren's memory, her family actively engaged in acts of remembrance. They might have shared cherished stories about her with friends and the community, keeping her spirit alive through the spoken word and fond anecdotes. Perhaps they established a foundation or a tribute in her name, ensuring that her legacy of kindness and love would continue to impact others. These active steps served as a testament to the enduring love they held for Lauren and their determination to keep her memory vibrant. The question of why likely lingered in their minds, an agonizing pursuit for understanding Reggie's motive behind such a devastating act. They actively tried to reconcile the man they might have once known with the person capable of such brutality, a painful and often unanswerable query. Finding peace amidst this incomprehensible betrayal was a difficult journey, requiring immense strength and resilience as they navigated the aftermath of this tragedy. Even with the conviction of Reggie for the murder of his wife, Lauren Charles, the precise motive behind his brutal actions might have remained an enigma for many. During the trial, The prosecution likely presented a theory of the case, attempting to illuminate the reasons that drove Reggie to commit such a heinous act. They might have delved into aspects of their relationship, financial situations, or any other potential triggers that could explain the violence. However, whether the full truth behind Reggie's motive was ever definitively established remains a crucial question. The complexities of human relationships often mean that the deepest reasons for one's actions remain hidden, even to those closest to them. Reggie, despite facing the scrutiny of the court and the public, might have never fully articulated his true motivations. Perhaps he offered a self-serving explanation, or maybe he remained silent on the specific reasons that led him to murder his wife. This lack of complete clarity can leave a lingering sense of uncertainty and frustration, particularly for Lauren's family and friends who desperately seek to understand the senseless tragedy. While the legal system successfully held Reggie accountable for his crime, the inner workings of his mind and the exact sequence of events that culminated in Lauren's death might never be fully known. The bizarre elements of the initial 911 call and the clues uncovered from the electronic device offered insights into the how, but the ultimate why behind Reggie's violence could remain a haunting question mark. This is a common and often painful reality in criminal cases, where the motivations of the perpetrator are complex and deeply personal. This enduring mystery surrounding the motive can add another layer of sorrow for Lauren's loved ones. While the conviction brought a form of justice, the absence of a clear understanding of why Reggie chose such a violent path can leave a void in their healing process. They might continue to grapple with unanswered questions, searching for meaning in a senseless act, a quest that can sometimes be as agonizing as the initial grief. Ultimately, the case of Lauren Charles highlights the often unfathomable nature of such crimes. While the legal system provided an answer to the question of who, the deeper question of why might forever remain shrouded in the closed world of the perpetrator's mind. This enduring ambiguity serves as a stark reminder of the unpredictable and sometimes inexplicable darkness that can reside within individuals, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and lasting pain for those left behind. Beyond immediate intervention, Lauren's family actively sought to honor her memory by potentially advocating for systemic changes or supporting initiatives focused on preventing domestic violence. They might have expressed a desire to see greater awareness campaigns, stricter laws to protect victims, or improved support systems for those seeking to leave abusive situations. Their active involvement in such efforts would serve as a lasting tribute to Lauren's life and a commitment to making a difference in the lives of others. In sharing their story, Lauren's family actively extended a message of solidarity to others who have endured similar heartbreak. They understood that their experience was not unique and that many individuals and families grapple with the devastating consequences of domestic violence. Their willingness to speak openly about their pain and their pursuit of justice offered a beacon of hope and a reminder that they are not alone in their struggles. Their active plea was not just for help, but for collective awareness, empathy, and a commitment to building safer communities for everyone. Lauren's family and friends actively keep her memory alive through cherished stories, heartfelt anecdotes, and a collective commitment to ensuring she is never forgotten. They might actively participate in memorial events, share photographs and videos, and speak of her with the same warmth and affection that defined her life. This active remembrance serves as a powerful counterpoint to the darkness of her murder, a defiant act of love that ensures her spirit continues to resonate within the community. Remember, domestic violence affects people across all educational levels, socioeconomic backgrounds, and professions. By continuing these conversations, we reduce stigma and potentially save lives. No one should face what Lauren endured, and together, we can help prevent similar tragedies. Today, Lauren Charles is remembered not for how she died, but for how she lived. Her friends have established an annual scholarship supporting women in scientific fields, continuing her legacy of breaking barriers and fostering connection. The community garden where she volunteered now features a bench bearing her name and favorite quote, "Growth requires both roots and wings." Though her voice was silenced, her impact continues through those who knew and loved her. Perhaps the most fitting memorial is how her story now helps others recognize danger before it escalates. In this way, Lauren's compassionate spirit lives on, still connecting people, still solving problems, still making the world better through her influence, even after her physical presence has ended. If this story has impacted you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to lled True Crime Stories. Your support helps us continue sharing these important narratives that could potentially save lives. Share this video with someone who might benefit from understanding these warning signs. You never know who might need this information. Please, let's hear from you in the comments. What would you do if you suspected a friend or family member was experiencing domestic abuse? How would you approach the conversation? Your insights might help others recognize when and how to intervene. Together, we can turn these tragic stories into life-saving lessons for our communities.